Today's video is on the extreme importance of subjective time perception. And it's something we all brush off as though it's relatively unimportant, when in reality, it's like half of what matters. Okay, so your life, you have quantity of life and quality of life, right? And quantity of life breaks down into two things. You have your objective time that you exist for, which is largely your health, right? And then you also have your subjective perception of time, which is how long that actually feels, right? So it's very common, people will tell you the last 10 years went by like it was 1 year long or half a year long, right? And that's something that people just don't care about or don't take seriously. And I'm like, but this is a really big deal. That's a really, really big deal. Somebody tells you, someone's like 70 years old, they tell you I got cancer and I'm going to die, I lose 10 years of my life. I'm like, well, that's a much smaller deal than if they tell you, hey, my life is going by super fast. I'm 30 years old and it feels like life's playing at 4 times speed. I'm like, well, you're gonna lose 60 years of your life or 40 years of your life because of that, right? Time perception is unbelievably important. Why do we care so much about objective time, but not so much about subjective time? Well, I think there's one rational reason for that. Most of the reason I think is irrational. I think it's just because it's normal to care about your health and it's abnormal to care a lot about your time perception, right? Even though you can do a lot more about your time perception than your health, probably. But there is one rational reason too, I think, that I can think of, which is your objective time affects the people around you as well as yourself, but the subjective time only affects you. So for example, like if I get cancer or something, then the people around me, the time they can experience with me goes down, right? But if like my subjective perception of time speeds up, then from their point of view, they're still spending the same amount of time with us, right? And that is kind of a selfish argument, right? We should care about how other people feel and experience things, not just how we experience them, right? Okay, so it's an interesting question. And, I say, which is a better life? If I ask you this right now, which life would you pick? You can live to the age of 100 and your time perception feels like 20 years long, or you could live to the age of 20 and your time perception feels like 100 years long, right? And let's say that's true for everybody around you too, right? Well, clearly the better choice is the second option. But we act the way we act in reality, the way our society runs and all this, we operate like it's the first is the better choice, right? We care infinitely more about health. We invest billions into health, but we don't invest a whole lot into psychology and figuring out how to actually make people feel like their lives are a lot longer, right? Okay, so can we actually do a lot about this? The answer is yes. Okay, so I'll give you some examples. Okay, a couple of years ago, I went to Australia, and it was I kind of got tricked into going to the country, but we're not going to go into that. So let's get to the meat here. When I was there for 44 days, but it felt like at least 3 months. It felt like I was there maybe even half a year, right? You can't exactly measure your subjective experience of time. There's no clock you can use to measure it, but you can approximate it. You can say this felt like maybe 2 times speed or half speed or 10 times speed. You can measure it with some imprecision, right? But compared to how I normally experience existence, it felt like I was there way, way, way longer. Like each day felt like 3 days or something. It was pretty mind blowing, right? I was like, this is eye opening, right? So, there's psychological research on this too, and I think the research backs up most of what I'm saying. You can Google it if you're bored. But two principles I think that are pretty universal. The first one is emotional experience. When we have intense, strong emotions, we tend to remember more things, and that makes sense. Like we remember trauma a lot better than we remember like some really minor thing like a little cut we get at work, right? And the same thing's true with like strong experiences. You're a lot more likely to remember your wedding than you are to remember, I don't know, eating a snack that was mildly enjoyable, right? So we're pretty shocked when people don't remember really emotional experiences. So having more emotional experiences is a good thing. We should try to be more emotional. And our cultures are, it depends where you are. Like Latino culture, for example, kind of encourages strong emotion. North American culture discourages it. We're kind of seen as like animalistic and impulsive or something if we have strong emotions, which is very bad. I think it's good to have strong emotional experiences and diversity of emotion. That's another thing I would say. This one I don't think is in the literature, but having diversity of emotion is really important. We don't talk too much about this. So in our societies, there's like 5 or 10 emotions that are government sanctioned. Like you're allowed to feel laughter, but you're not allowed to feel like a very strong sense of justice and revenge there's many other like curiosity. We tell people curiosities for children, you shouldn't be so curious, right? I think that's another way we can have a lot more strong emotional experience. So you like having this diversity can really improve. This can really slow down your time perception, right? Okay, what else? This one's, I think this is in the psychological literature, and I think it's correct. And I've observed this myself. Novelty also helps. I think people who kind of just stay in one place and try to accumulate a lot of money, they're not as happy as people who like do a lot of things. People who go skydiving, people who go climbing, people who go biking, swimming, people who play bowling, who draw art, who do a lot of different things. I think people like that who have a lot of novel experiences, they tend to remember more stuff. They get more meaning out of their life. I think people traveling is a really good way to create novelty, right? And yeah, like when we're kids, looking at childhood, most people say time passes by very slow when we're kids. And I'm like, well, that's a good place to start. If kids have very slow time perception, what can we learn from children to help improve our time perception, right? And those are two big things kids have: novelty, because everything's new when you're a kid, and more emotional experience, right? Kids have more emotional experience than adults do usually, right? So that's a good beginning. And for me, if I'm being honest, I would say my time perception is pretty normal, or not normal, good. Okay, like to me, I don't really have a complaint about life going by too fast. It feels like it's going by at an acceptable rate. I've had times in my life where I'm working all the time and I have a very monotonous life, and I felt like time, like a year is going by in like a couple months. It feels like a year is maybe 2 months long. I've had points like that, right? And my life doesn't feel like that today, right? So that's something we can do. And we can also do this in like our work, because work is a lot of our life, and we can design work so we have more emotional experience. I'm like, I have a friend and he's a security guard, and I was like, that's a good occupation in some ways, because there's a lot of interesting things that happen on the job, right? You can do things like that. Or my other friend, he's works for Air Canada, and that's another good job in a lot of ways, because he gets to go traveling around the world very often, right? This is another way you can do this, is to dream more. Another way you can slow down time is dreaming more. And in some sense, you're actually increasing the objective experience you have of time, because in some ways you're alive more if you have dreams. It's like you get an extra hour of life each night if you have a dream. Now, dreaming often comes at the expense of sleeping well. So if you dream more but you sleep less well, then you're not really gaining anything, because when you sleep bad, you're a zombie and you lose all your emotional experience the next day. So it's like you're gaining an hour of time to lose 8 hours. It's not worth it, right? But there's ways to increase how much you dream without, sleeping less well, right? And I think like, yeah, like I'm not super knowledgeable on that, but like one thing, I guess the one thing I've noticed that helps with that a lot maybe is having some emotional experiences near when you sleep. Like if I do something really boring before I sleep, then I'm less likely to dream. But if I do something like, I don't know, I have a good time right before I go to bed, then I'm more likely to dream, right? Like maybe I can, I don't know, watch a nice sunset or whatever, watch the stars or something, whatever gives you some kind of emotional experience before you sleep. That's more likely to make you dream. So yeah, there's that, and then I want to ask you guys, what tricks have you found to slow down your time perception? Have you guys found any cool tricks to slow down time? Right, because this is one of the best ways to live longer. Right, we can live much much longer by slowing down our time perception. Right, and I would like to get my time perception so it's even slower. Right now, it's already quite slow, but I want it to be even slower, right? So what can we do to do that as well? Okay, what do you guys think?